Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's start with exceptional handlings. Okay, so first, before starting with this video, let's first try to understand what are exceptions. Okay, now there are two things. One is an error, and second one exception. Okay, error basically means, let's say I write an expression anything. So this is an error, like what am I writing? So this is an error. But what is an exception? So there are multiple exceptions in Java, and you have already seen one exception. Let's say that I have an integer, okay, integer array, okay, and let's say I set it to new integer, okay, and set the size of this particular integer to be 4, and then I say that ARR at 5 equals to 10. So you know that this particular thing is not valid. The code is valid, right? If the code has an error, let's say I forget to terminate this line. So this is an error, right? But I have written everything correctly. But you know that the size of the array is 4, and I'm trying to access an element which is at the 5th index. So this is not right. But okay. So this thing is known as exception. Now, if I run this program, see what happens. It says exception in thread main that index 5 out of bounds for length 4, which is correct. So error is basically like you have syntax errors, you have compile time errors, and exception is something that happens on the runtime. Basically when you have an error or you are trying to do something that is not possible is known as exception. So in this video, we'll be understanding how we can handle these exceptions. Okay, let's say let's say this 5, this what is hard coded here. Let's say this input was coming from a user was entering this number, okay, and let's say user says that I want to enter 4 number and keep 10 on the 5th index, which is wrong. So you want to show user a number, that you want to prompt the user that hey, that you have a length of 4 and you cannot access the 5th index. Now this is an exception created by Java itself, and this is not so user friendly, right? But what if I want to catch this exception and do some task when this exception occurs? That means let's say I want to try again. I want to give the user again an ability to input the number. So what I can do, in order to handle exceptions, we have something known as try catch. Okay, so what is this try catch? Okay, so what we do is basically any code that can throw exception goes inside the try block, and if that code causes some exception, we can catch that exception in this catch block. Okay, let's say I say that exception E. Okay, so this takes an argument. Let's say we try to do this illegal thing here, okay, and we say that S out, something happened. Okay, something has happened. Okay, so if I run this code now, see what happens. I'm getting something happened. Now Java is no longer throwing an exception. I can do anything of this exception. I can see what was the error, and according to that I can handle it. Okay, so that's how you can catch the exceptions. Now let me give you one more example. Let's say first of all, let's have a scanner. Okay, scanner equals to new scanner, basically system.n. okay, now what I want to do is basically I want to give the user ability to divide two numbers. So I'll be having two numbers, A and B. So I'll say A equals to scanner.nextEnd, okay, dot nextEnd, and then B equals to scanner.nextEnd. Then I'll say S out, basically divide A by B. So do you see any error here? No. Do you see any exception that can be occurred? Now that depends upon the user input. Let's say I run this program and I say, hey, do one thing, divide 4 by 2. So you get 2, which is absolutely correct. But what if user says, hey, computer, do one thing, divide 4 by 0. Oh my God, there is an exception saying that exception divide by 0 is not possible, right? So these kind of things we can handle. So what I can say try. Okay, so what you need to try, I want to try this statement, basically the divide. Then I want to catch an exception. Now what kind of exception? The exception E basically catches every kind of exception, or I can say like arithmetic exception. Okay, then I'll say S out, some arithmetic exception occurred. Now what I have done here, I'll be explaining it soon. Now if I run this program 4 and 0, so I get some arithmetic expression, some arithmetic exception occurred. Now there are multiple kinds of exceptions, right? There's an arithmetic exception, there is a runtime exception, there are multiple kinds of exception. In this particular program, I'm only and only catching arithmetic exception. What if some other kind of exception occurs, right? So that will not be catched here. Let's say I again have an integer, okay? Integer ARR equals to new integer of size 5, let's say, okay? And in this particular statement only, I'm trying to do something known as that ARR, okay? ARR of let's say 5, which is not possible, equals to 10, right? Now if I run this program and then I say 4 and 2, now as you can see, I'm again getting an exception, but I have wrapped my program in this particular block, try catch. So this particular catch is only and only responsible for catching arithmetic exception. But this right here is not an arithmetic exception. So what I can do, either I can do an exception, which basically means catch all type of exceptions, or I can have multiple catch block. I can say catch, let's say array index out of bound exception, E, and then I can say S out that, hey, your index was invalid. Okay. So now what will happen? If this particular line throws an error, will be catched here because this is an arithmetic exception. If this particular line throws an error, so this will be ignored because this is not an arithmetic exception, and this line will be executing because we are explicitly saying that catch array out of index exception, right? So let's run this program. If I say 4 and 0, I get some arithmetic exception. And if I say 4 and 2, then I get, hey, your index was invalid. So that's how you can handle the exceptions and do something according to it. So either you can explicitly say what kind of exception you want to handle, or you can just say exception to handle all kind of exceptions in Java. So that was try, catch and exceptional handling basics in Java. So let's meet you in the next section. Until then, bye bye, take care.